Well, good morning to Facebook and also our LinkedIn crowd. Hopefully, you made it over. This morning, we are talking about organizational struggles. And all types of organizations have struggle, not just organizations working in the dementia field. Um, Literally, every organization has struggles. People have struggles. Life is hard. Life is really hard, just like we were talking about, getting ready and out the door. So, team, one thing that came across my inbox really struck a chord with me. It was something that was meant for all organizations, and it was for organizational leadership. Um, and it really, really hit me hard. And I thought, that kind of is ringing a bell with what we experience in Positive Approach to Care. We're a virtual company. We're worldwide, mostly US and Canada. We have about 20 people who are on full-time or part-time, but we also then have 25 to 30 people, sometimes up to 50 people, given when and where we are in time and place. Before the pandemic, it was greater, it was bigger, we had more people, who are our independent contractors, our mentors going out there and working in the world. But we also have about 2,000 to 3,000 on any given day certified community independent professionals who are going out and sharing our content. That's a pretty huge group of people to kind of be helping guide and direct and make sure that things are going where they're supposed to go. And so we have our own organizational struggles. But I'm going to show you guys this, and I want you to just share what stands out. So here we go. All right, so looking just at this top place, this is the line that caught my attention. 83% of organizations believe it's important to develop leaders at every level of the company. That was the only line in my email. That was what caught my attention. So guys, what does that say to you?
Yeah, Amanda, it really speaks volumes to me that although we talk about making leaders, sometimes we don't always do to make the leaders.
So we want everybody in the organization from top to bottom to feel some sort of sense of leadership, just do your job and do it well and own it. And yet that last part of the line, only 5% have implemented leadership development. That's the challenge there. Anybody else have seen this in other organizations or within PAC itself, where we've had some growing pains of trying to build leadership at each level?
Yeah, I think that's a key word, Amanda, at each level.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of organizations, while they think it's important to do it on all levels, they do it on certain levels only, and that's it.
Right. Well, because I think people don't recognize that there need to be leaders at every level, because somebody needs to have someone to look up to, or something to reach for themselves.
Yeah, and so if you are the first in your position, which happens a lot at Positive Approach to Care, we have a lot of first in your positions. How many of you on this call, let me stop share so that people can see you raise your hands. How many of you on this call, I said to you when you came on board, well, I'm sort of writing your role sheet as you come on board, so you're going to have to help me out with it. Yeah, okay, literally all of us. And that's the beauty and also the curse of a startup company who's doing things differently and doing things virtually. A lot of times there isn't a role until there's a need for the role, and then it's like, oh. But because of how we organize, people in our organization own their role, and they start to grow that role in a way that benefits not just their own area, but the rest of the organization as well. Because we truly believe in Positive Approach to Care that if each area has leaders and owners of what they're doing, if we stay siloed, you might have a really good branch. We might have a really strong products branch. We might have a really strong marketing branch. We might have a really great certifications branch. But you're leaving all those other pieces out, and it doesn't tend to build an organization with structure and culture and change. So what we truly do is everybody has to own their parts. But when we come together in meetings, yesterday we had our organization meeting. That's focusing on organizations that Positive Approach to Care serves. We start the meeting with a data share from individuals who are leaders within our organization. And then we break into smaller groups so that we can really go where our needs are met. But we also can go where we feel ownership, where we feel leadership in certain areas. Because no one person, no matter how strong that leader is, can swoop a whole company up and throw it down the line forever and ever. And that's really the biggest challenge that we realized, especially virtually, because you don't have those times to really connect. Is you've got to make times, but you also don't want to waste meeting time, because meeting time is valuable work time. And if we're not using it as valuable work time to move projects forward, then we end up really getting stuck in our silos, those little tiny spaces where we're just clinging for dear life. So now let's shift focus a little bit. We have talked about how PAC sort of builds leaders up, but we didn't really talk about how we do that. It's not just in a single meeting or something else. We start with an open conversation. That roll sheet discussion really is an open roll sheet discussion. How do we split? How do you share? How do you guys, each of you, feel ownership or leadership in your role? What are some things that you do that give you leadership? And where do we, as a company, an organization, help you build your leadership skills? Because it doesn't come naturally to all of us. We have to learn some of these skills to do things differently. So where do we provide, as an organization, a place for you to grow your leadership skills?
One thing is just recognizing what skills you have and that you can apply. And then I think there's always an attitude fostered of what's your vision for your area? How do you see it growing as you apply your skills?
Mm-hmm. But I also think we start with our basic PAC skills, learning our positive approach skills, so that then we know how to use them within any area of the organization. So we all start with the same core knowledge, right? I mean, we all came in through that as well, and then just enhance that before we then take that and apply that to our area.
Cool. So you guys are hitting on really two different elements.
Mm-hmm.
We as an organization provide you a similar or common language,
Mm-hmm.
culture, and expectation. We ask our folks who work with PAC to be mentors, to get certified in at least 2 areas, to follow through our certification process, to become champions, and then to actively use their skills. This is not, I pop off an email and it's very precursory. It's actually, I'm doing an email and I am encouraged as an employee at Positive Approach to Care to use my positive physical approach, even though I'm not physically getting close to anyone. Because if I'm asking someone to do something, I need to use positive action starters rather than I need you to statements or did you do this yet? Because our tone in emails and written work is really hard. Tone is really hard to read. And so we, as a company, before the pandemic, we were using Zoom for everything before that. Because the beauty of talking with someone and really actively thinking about how I stand when we're doing a meeting that might be a little more challenging. And when I decide to do a Zoom versus an email versus a phone call, those things are things that we actively train and we practice and we coach with each other. Every single year, we're doing at least 6 to 12 different coaching sessions. They may be for really small pieces, they may be for really big pieces, but we're also then guiding and supporting and asking questions across, as Debbie said. It's not a one-way street. It's not Positive Approach giving you guys stuff that you have to do. This is us opening up and saying, hey, how is that going for you? Here, here, or here. What are areas that you see as strengths? Where are you feeling really positive? And what is really struggling right now? Is it the distance between you and your cohort, your partners, your people, or is it something else that's keeping this project from getting done? And it can be lots of factors, but you have the power and the leadership to say, I think it might be this. I want to try something different. Not me saying, I think you should try this different. So at every level, you're right, Shelley, we're building in those PAC skills. And then we're expecting you to use them. That's that implementation and that accountability piece that often gets missed. I can say I want us to be person-centered, but if I don't know what that means, or if I'm not showing you what that means, or you don't feel as person respected, centered as you should be in your role, how does that trickle down? So when we look at, now I'm going to shift gears completely to organizations that offer care for folks living with dementia, because that's really who, a lot of times when we're talking about organizations who know us, Positive Approach to Care, we're talking about organizations that offer care. That doesn't mean that this stuff that we're talking about is only for those organizations, but what do we offer to support people? So I'm going to just kind of shift down to the bottom here, and Jamie or Debbie, why don't you guys talk us through a little bit of what we do offer for folks at different places and who this kind of hits on, and then we'll pull up those 6 pieces of the puzzle.
Okay, so wow, lots of options for lots of folks. So should we start with the client level, Amanda, the Care Partner Support Series?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, so the client level, which could be the family members or people who provide care in home settings, or people who are just curious to support the people that the clients that they take care of a little bit better. The Care Partner Support Series is a 6-week virtual, which is really nice, support group for those folks.
Exactly, Debbie. It's empowering people with knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is it takes people who feel hopeless, helpless, and devastated, which are words that we have heard constantly, and it takes that I wish I had known out of the picture. And what it does is it really takes our folks who never got trained in any of this. They don't even know a lot of the time early on that this is happening. And then boom, you are the primary care partner for somebody who is living with a form of dementia. And you're actually already in mid-state, because a lot of times we're not getting a diagnosis early on. Only 20% of people are getting an early diagnosis, accurate early diagnosis. And even still, the diagnosis process is taking 2 to 5 years. How helpless do you feel? And then you come to this organization that's supposed to be able to provide care for dementia. And Jamie, what do we know about those folks? Let's go to the next one.
Yes, so the next one would be our organizations that are in the direct care services. So you would think we would come prepared with the knowledge and skills, because those are 2 very different things, knowledge and skills, when it comes to brain change. But what we're finding out, and myself as an occupational therapist, is that although we may have a little bit of knowledge, we don't have the knowledge depth and the skill mastered it takes to really do care with people instead of to people. So that's where the next step comes in. As PAC and designated organizations reach out to Debbie and go, hey, I know there's more, I need help. Debbie comes in our client relations and goes, oh, I've got some great things to help you based on where we think you're at and where you think you're at, how we can offer to support. And then we all come together through awareness, knowledge, and then skills to really make an impact in care.
You got it. And we skipped a whole level. I realized when we started this piece, we actually provide services for folks living with dementia.
Dementia. That's what I
And
was
they
going to
get to
say.
become advocates as well. And I totally skipped that piece in this graphic, and I'm now wishing I had added one more piece. We will add it in later.
But what a
Because-
valuable piece they give us back in our champions. So if you've never been to one of our champion courses, on Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, or on Fridays from 10 a.m. to noon, oh my goodness, the core team is there. They give us feedback, and the depth of knowledge it brings to those courses of why we do what we do is phenomenal.
And
Check it out.
Jamie, that's exactly what we're hoping you guys out there do. You start to look at your residents, the people that you care for, people living with this brain change that might be a dementia, it might be also a depression, a delirium. It could be an anxiety mixed with all of the other pieces. They could have other health impairments. Start looking at every level. Don't do what I did here. Don't skip over that first level. The people receiving your care should be part of the conversation. So if you are doing Care Partner Support Series, consider doing Let's Talk with TPO. Consider reaching out to us and saying, hey, we'd love a consult. We'd love a group of some sort for our folks who are living with dementia, but also consider adding them in as your mentors, your core team mentors in your organization at your champion course. When folks who are delivering care are learning these skills of approach, you better hope that they're working with someone who's accepting their care, because if we're not partnering these people up in training and doing real-time training, a lot of the things that we'll hear is, but it doesn't work with so-and-so, but it doesn't work with so-and-so. Well, that'll never work with Mary. That'll never work with Joe. And the fact is, it won't if you do it the way you've always done it. It won't if you do it exactly as we taught it. But it will if you figure out how to adapt and be flexible and offer rather than force. So yeah, great point, Jamie. And as we shift into those upper areas of an organization, Matthew, is Matthew still on? Matthew, what about that certification for that administrative level? What does a certification do in an organization?
Yeah, so starting to open those doors of, okay, we have this awareness of things that we would love to build in that administrative level or for our organization. And now bringing in the staff who receive those hours and hours of support from the PAC team to become certified, and then to go out to the rest of the staff and start to bring that awareness, knowledge, and skill to them so it can continue, that ripple effect can continue throughout the organization and start to build more of those pieces in and provide that support so that it can continue to grow and become this amazing thing within that organization.
Ooh, and Matthew, is this not an opportunity, I'm wondering, for building leaders in different parts of the organization? Huh.
You got it, Shelley. So maybe during the champion courses, you noticed somebody who you didn't realize was a leader on the floor, who you didn't realize had the ear of everyone else, who you didn't realize has been sort of quietly getting on with it for the last 20 years and is often overlooked as a true leader. And yet they started to stand out. And maybe that's a chance to offer a coach certification. They're not the person that's going to be up in front training and teaching, but they will be the person that partners alongside you, does your video, and helps you figure out how to approach Mary. Because you're right, the first 10 times she didn't accept it, but then I figured out something. And I worked at it so that she accepted me in her space.
Role modeling those skills is so important. That speaks louder than words oftentimes. The way I interact, people see that and they sit up and take notice. If I'm using skills that are more effective, that keep me from having to have conflict with a client or a resident, and it can really wow people, and you don't have to say a thing, you just have to do it and they see it.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many times have we heard someone say, well, she always gets them to, wow, it only works with her. What is she doing?
Yeah. And at first it's, why won't they do it for me? And then it's
right.
And then you start to realize, I wonder if it's something she's doing. And yeah, a lot of times it is, especially when we start infusing that empowerment with the champion courses. because people who felt helpless and hopeless in the workplace, because a lot of times dementia care or memory care simply means a few more videos, if anything. And we know that's not how people learn best, especially people who are doing that hands-on work. A lot of times a video is a great resource, but it's not going to help me really build my skills. I mean, we've said it a million times. How many of you out there would be like, yes, I'm going to go scuba diving by myself after watching a video? Yes, I'm going to go fly that plane after watching that video. I mean, it's just not the reality. And yet we're acting like this isn't life or death. And truly, in a lot of cases, this is a place of, I might not feel worth, I might not feel valued. And it may be that I can actually boost someone and empower someone to stay with us and feel valued.
And I think, Amanda, that's that empowerment too. I can think back to when I was working in long-term care, and when someone finally took the chance on me as an employee to go, hey, I know you really want to do this PAC course, or name that course, and I'll take the risk on you. I'll invest in you as my employee. That made me go, oh,
you got
something in me.
Jamie, that takes us to that top level. When you're looking at a designated org, in Positive Approach to Care, a great example, we do offer our employees, if they're looking for a marketing course, an additional accounting course, some Excel courses that goodness knows I don't want to take them, and I don't want to have to do all that stuff. But there are other courses like a Canva course and a design course that I'm finding value in. And these are things that enhance our team. And if we can see the value in investing in our own team at the core level, yes, the upfront cost might seem a little bit daunting, but with our designated org cost, it's truly not. The value of what you're getting for a team that feels valued, wow, that's all the difference that we can make. So we're going to shift gears a little bit here, and we're going to go into the 6 pieces of the puzzle. But first, I'm going to show, well, we'll just go whole screen. Sorry, guys. Here we go. All right. So I had a little trouble getting on. Let me go back to the actual thing I wanted to show you. Here we go. I don't know if you know this, but LinkedIn is not our friend recently. But we tried to go live on LinkedIn. We tried to deliver this thing that we had talked about. We said LinkedIn Live and then it lied. So I apologize for that. But on LinkedIn, we had a poll up. And we put it up last week, and we've had quite a few responses. And here are the pieces that we put out there. So we said, which piece of TIPA's organization puzzle should you start with to change culture? And that's where should you start? What's the first change you should make out of these 4 options? So the brains from the executive center, that means changing out who's making the decisions, changing out how that operates. The stakeholders, the residents, the staff, maybe families, those are the stakeholders who are in the organization. Health and wellness, how it functions, how healthy an organization is. And then the organization itself, make a change to the core of the organization. And so, PAC team, what do you guys notice about how people voted here?
It's a pretty high percentage there under the core of the organization. More so than the brains or the stakeholders.
What do you think that means, Debbie? And I mean, we didn't get a lot of comments. I'm curious, what do people mean by changing the core of an organization?
I wonder if they mean the philosophy of like the mission of the organization, or the way we think, the way we interact with people.
Yeah, so maybe if we change our vision, if we sort of move towards a different direction, or how we operate, sort of this overarching, like what we are as an organization. Okay, anybody else notice anything else that sort of stands out to you?
I mean, what kind of stands out to me is the lower percentage of the health and wellness, or the function of the organization. So I'm hoping that's correlating to things are getting better out there in this post-COVID world.
Or on the flip side, that it's hopeless, so why bother?
Yeah, I'm hoping that's not it, Amanda.
But it could very well be that you guys out there are realizing that's not the thing we can change first, because it's so big and it's so variable, and it really does depend on these other pieces. So maybe we'll go with what Jamie's thinking, but I have a feeling it might just be that it's a little too scary. Okay, anybody else? Any other noticings?
Well, I think it's interesting that only 20% think that the staff and residents could change.
Oh, and that would make a big difference for culture change. Yeah, I found that interesting too. And I'm wondering too, Shelley, what people think by the word staff.
Uh-huh.
What
Yeah.
comes to mind first off when you hear the word staff in long-term care or in dementia care?
Direct care staff.
And what do we mean by staff?
Everybody.
Oh, shoot. Okay. So yeah, there might be some language that sort of led people to choose one over the other. But let's shift over now here to our six piece of the puzzle. So this is TIPA's six piece of the puzzle for an individual, a person who we are trying to figure out something with, whether we've had a challenging situation, whether we're setting up to be proactive in our care, whether we're just shifting. Maybe somebody just moved into your home. Maybe it's just a family member and there's no sign of brain change. There's nothing else. Maybe they're a kid that you're taking in. Maybe you're bringing in a foster child. Who knows what your situation is, but whenever there's a change and you notice something happening, or you're trying to prepare, and there's going to be a relationship of care and or close proximity, TIPA's recommendation is to really become a master detective. Really get out your magnifying glass and start looking at the six piece of the puzzle. What do you know about the person, the time, the brain changes? What do you know about these things? Where do you have questions, and where can you make changes? So when we look at these six pieces of the puzzle, we have the person and who I've always been. We have my health and wellness, how I'm doing. And then, oh, there's that one, we have my brain change. Often it's seen as a negative, so we put it on this finger, but altogether, those are my three pieces. And then over here with the match, we have the person and we have the people around the person. Got the stakeholders. We also have the environment. I have my environment that I live in. We have our environment that we live in together. And then over here, it was brain changes. And over here, it becomes time because I no longer know how to fill my day. I no longer can fill my day in the way I used to, or maybe I'm needing more support in filling my day. Maybe I broke my arm and now we're trying to figure out how the heck do I get you to school on time when you guys are different places and So again, not just for folks living with brain changes, but that's where it was built originally. Of these six pieces of the puzzle, we like to want to change these three. The person, change the person. Tell me out there, how many of you have been successful in changing a partner? No, Jamie, no? No, it just doesn't happen. You might be able to get some compromises, like we can both get to like here, but it doesn't actually change who I've always been or what I like or what I don't like. It just means that I'm willing to be here if I can. But when brain change comes into the picture, guess what? Those compromises might go out the window. And so we've got to stop looking at these three on the left. These are not the ones we want to change. We can't change them. We want to be aware of them. We want to notice changes. We want to really note how that's going. But we got to stop looking at these ones on the left to change. Instead, we want to focus our energy on the three that we can change. We can change who the people are or how skilled they are. We can change the environment. I know sometimes you move in and you feel like, well, that mirror's always been there. Guess what? It can come down. It's actually not like permanent in your life. You can move it. And yet sometimes we don't see it because we're so set on working on changing the person. The environment can shift. And last but not least, we sure as heck can change how we use our time, how we spend our time, how many times we repeat the same answer back. And then we'll say, oh, well, they asked me the same questions. You can choose how we're doing things differently. So we always talk about these three on the right being the ones to focus. Those are the three you can change. Stop trying to fix these and fix these. Pick one, don't pick all three, and change it. So when we get to an organization, I'm curious, PAC team, what do you think? Now that we're looking at this in the very similar setup, hopefully you notice it looks really similar. Where do you think people could focus their energies on changing? And where did people in our poll want to focus their energy?
Yeah, I think from the poll, we want to change the things that aren't necessarily changeable unless we do something first. Over here in structure and routine, the individuals and the environment first.
Yeah, and I was thinking as you were talking, Amanda, that people often feel like when a new regime comes in, the organization has changed. And it's like, no, it was the people who came in and made oh, wow.
Yeah, Shelley, I mean, great point. And that is where people tend to make the most change, in that executive center in the brains and the staffing. What they don't realize is that when they change the executive center, they're actually changing how the organization functions, but it's not still focusing on the people. It's still messing with how we do things and basing it on one new idea or new structure or new plan for how we're going to make decisions. Where are we going to spend this money? What are we going to do with these people? How are we going to reach out? But we're missing, again, building leadership at each level. We are not empowering our executives who we're bringing in to know what to do in this organization. We're not doing a healthy look at the organization and how we've made decisions in the past and saying, okay, let's see what we know. This works here, this doesn't work here. This works here, this doesn't work here. Here's 5 positive things about how we were operating. Here's the one big stickler that has kept us down. We cannot figure out this situation, whether it's staff turnover, whether it's not enough funds coming in, whether it's lunches, meals, prep, whatever it is, dings from the state, whatever your pain points are, we got to stop thinking that we can just change the executive branch and then it will all work itself out. Instead, we want to look at empowering leaders at every single level. So for those of you who chose stakeholders, the people, you nailed it. Because our goal is to really start looking again at those 3 on the right, the structure and the routine, that time thing, how we have people scheduled, who does the scheduling, how that works, how we do shifts, when people have to be at breakfast, when they can eat, those things can change. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know it feels like that mirror on the wall that's been there since you moved in. But guess what? They are flexible. You will need to make the decision in the executive area to do that change. And you do want to do some thinking before you change a structure and a routine to make sure it's going to work. But it's flexible. The individuals can each be empowered. And we offer a lot of different support at every single level to bring people up to leadership. But maybe you're needing more support in creativity, design space. Maybe that's something that you're wanting somebody who wants to take an interior design course. Who knows what they might be interested in? And then finally, that environment. Yeah, the environment can shift, but it takes a team approach. You really want to start with the individuals first. If you're experiencing lots of turnover, dings from the state, and families upset, you might be looking on the wrong side of the puzzle here for what to change to have a more inclusive and empowered culture.
And I think that's where in that environment piece, if we look at TIPA's 4Fs and we apply those to the people that are within our organization, that's when you can really say, is this environment really matching to support empowerment of our staff?
You got it. And I'm sorry, I'm clicking through so fast, but I really wanted to get to where Jamie was talking about here. This idea of the 4Fs and the 4Ss for environment. Is it friendly for staff? Is it familiar? Is it functional? How do you know?
Yeah, I think we look at it. We look at it for those living within the organization. So our reps, we really do a good job of checking that out for them. But at the same time, as people that are spending the majority of our lives there, are we looking at that for us as well?
Right.
Great point.
I see the column on the left as being more the culture of the organization. And we can't forget that individuals are also individual leaders and people of position who make decisions about how care is delivered and how much time staff have to learn the skills. So we include them as individuals, even though collectively they are part of the executive center or the brains of the organization.
You got it. If our core driving values are person-centered care, and yet we don't know what that means at each of these levels within our stakeholders, how could we possibly meet that goal? So we're sort of setting ourselves up to fail with our mission statement, our vision statement, and then our plans. If we're looking just at what the words are or the why we're doing it, and we haven't implemented training within my job description, no matter what level I'm at,
Right.
then I really should do a better assessment of what does my staff, including myself, what do we truly know about dementia? Because we put a quiz on our site, and if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's on the About Dementia tab, and the results are pretty shocking as far as what folks do and don't know. And it's sort of scary because we've been doing this for a long time, and yet 90% of people are still thinking that dementia is the same as Alzheimer's, which is the same as memory problems. And if we keep addressing things inaccurately without the knowledge and awareness that exists in the world, what kind of service can we truly provide? So final sort of, any questions out there, Shelley, in the world of Facebook that we need to address? No, okay, cool.
Nope.
All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us today. I think hopefully you got here. LinkedIn, we will try differently next time. Sure, we'll figure something out. Maybe next time I'll remember. I'll use my stakeholders here and see if we can make a change that actually works, because the environment is really not friendly to me. So we are going to see you guys next time out there, but thank you so much. And we really appreciate you guys struggling through some of these organizational challenges. If you have questions or things that you'd like to hear us talk about on our next episodes, we'll be bringing on some of our designated org folks who will come in. They're that group that did that final level. They did all the levels. They're providing support for families to be empowered. They're providing support for their hands-on care staff. And at every level, they're building leaders who are certified. And then they're taking it to that organization level. How do we make sure culture change starts with us, the people in this organization? So thanks out there, everybody. We'll see you next time.